Rita here, and I'm sitting here with the wonderfully gifted Cathy Miktuk.
Thank you.
So Cathy, you are a spiritual psychic medium.
That is correct.
Now, what is the difference between a spiritual psychic medium and a psychic medium?
A psychic medium, they can use different tools. They use cards. They also can connect to spirit, but a spiritual psychic medium will connect with spirit and does not use a tool. And they walk in the spiritual realm all the time. It's like I can see, hear, feel spirits around me at all times.
So when you say see, hear, feel, when you see them, do you see them through your third eye, or you really sometimes see them?
I sometimes actually see them. I actually see their face. I can describe them. Sometimes it is through the third eye. It depends how they would choose to come through.
Okay. And you were born with this gift, weren't you?
I was born with this gift, and I've done this my whole life, yes.
So how did your parents first react?
Well, my dad and my mother are both very spiritual. We're Native Americans, so they really didn't react at all. It was just something very natural. My dad used to tease me once in a while, but it was just a accepted thing in our family.
So it wasn't like, okay, you've got imaginary friends.
We never had imaginary friends. If we were talking to somebody, we were talking to spirit, and they knew it.
And you also had a mentor, didn't you?
I did. She was an aunt by choice.
Yeah.
The wonderfully gifted lady, and her name was Lou Ross, and she studied for a very long time, and she told my mother when I was very young, just about 3-4 years old, that I had the gift and that I would do good things with it.
So how did you learn to connect?
Well, I started hearing spirit, and I just naturally knew it was there. And then as I got older and I was learning the different spirits, how to differentiate one from the other, my aunt actually showed me how to connect with individual spirits as opposed to the group. When I was 3, I would walk around, tell them somebody's coming to the door, and tell them, oh, Uncle Jim's coming to the door.
Yeah.
They'd laughed at me at first, until like 3 minutes later, Uncle Jim was at the door. Or if the phone rang, I could tell them who was calling and that the phone was going to ring before it happened.
Oh, that's wonderful, actually. It's fun.
It was fun, and they actually had a good time with it. Because they always wondered if I was going to tell them. And then they used to like to try to get me to do it when others were around, and of course that's not when it was. But it was all in fun.
Yeah.
So it was a really good thing. It was a great way to grow up, not feeling different, not having them try to explain away when I was talking to spirit that it was not indeed talking to spirit, but an imaginary friend. I didn't ever have that issue.
No. Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah, it was great.
Now, how would you say to other people, how would you connect with a loved one?
When I say, how would you like to open up, especially when I first start working with a person, I try to get them to use the and show them how to hold their hands so that they can receive, and I teach them to listen.
But if you teach them to listen, isn't that by quieting the mind?
Not necessarily. Actually, a lot of people would think that, but sometimes you can't quiet the mind, and that's a good reason why, if you don't know how to quiet your mind, you start with the hum and work up with that.
And what about breathing?
Breathing exercises are real important, and that's to ground yourself after you have connected. You've been up there, you have to come back down and you ground yourself, so you have to take 10 slow, deep inhale breaths and exhale, and then you can come back into your body. It gravitates you back into your body gently and not slams you into the body.
Okay. How do you always advise people or tell people when loved ones are around, when they're on their own? Is it through things they smell?
Actually, I've had people that their loved one will tell them I'll be leaving pennies for them. And the one girl, I told her, your grandfather is leaving pennies for you, and she started to cry. She said that was his thing. From the time she was a little girl, he always gave her pennies.
Right.
And then you have other things they'll do, like some will you leave a feather,
Yeah.
or it is sometimes smell, sometimes it's feel. you'll feel something, like something brush your cheek,
Yeah.
very gently, and they're connecting, they're touching you.
Right.
And that's been a spirit that's been over there for quite some time and has done a lot of work that is able to reach through and can touch you.
Okay. What about those that pass through trauma?
The ones that pass through trauma, they have to get to the point that they understand that they've passed. I work with them to cross them over to the higher side, get them to accept that they're not in their body any longer. And once you do that and you take them to the light and you take them to the gate where Christ and Spirit take them in, then they go in very willingly and they're relieved because they're no longer an earthbound spirit.
That makes sense. Now, what about those that have suffered trauma from the ones that have crossed over? How do you deal with that?
When you cross over, it's a whole different level of understanding. Everything's forgiveness. They come up, they greet you. It's a greeting with love. They apologize. And some of them actually will come back through as one of their children or one of their grandchildren to help heal what they had done to you in the past.
Have you ever had sessions whereby, what we talked about, where someone has gone through the trauma, but the ones that have crossed over, and that person, as a spirit, comes back and apologizes?
Many times. Many times they will come back and apologize. They'll come and they'll identify the problem. I was a drinker, I was abusive, I was running after other individuals and I neglected this person, I was abusive to them as far as verbally as well as physically, and they want to apologize. And a lot of times you'll see that spirit is really, tears are running down their eyes because they really are very remorseful.
And does it help the living?
It helps the living to heal if they're willing to embrace that. If they're not willing to embrace that, which you do have people that choose not to, they still have to live with that bitterness until they choose to let it go and heal it.
You're also a spiritual healer.
I am also a spiritual healer, and I actually love that because I do a form of healing that is somewhat like Reiki. It's energy healing, and I've been able to help many people through pain. I have one girl that came through a really difficult labor. She had toxemia, which is a poisoning condition to your system when you are pregnant, and she was in such excruciating pain, and I asked her if she would mind if I worked on her, and she said no, she didn't mind, so I did. I ran healing on her. She was she sat there and she visited. When she came in to the store, she very much was in pain. You could see it in her face, and she could barely walk. When I was finished with her, she sat down, she ate lunch. She was able to stay for almost 2 hours, and she hugged me and she said, "Thank you. I was about to go take a Percocet. The pain was so bad, and I feel nothing now."
That's amazing.
So it was such a beautiful testimonial to be able to help someone of that nature out of that kind of pain.
But with Reiki, you use the symbols, but you don't need to use the symbols.
I do not use symbols at all. I do not. Everything I do is connected straight to the Christ light, and it's all spirit. I just am like a conductor, actually.
Right.
So I just do what I'm guided to do. Spirit will tell me where to put my hands, what is needed done. I've also worked on a child that came into the life as a crack baby, and because I worked energy on her, she never suffered the normal withdrawals and the side effects from a drug-addicted mother.
And you've also helped people that had cancer and other diseases.
I've helped people with cancer. I had one lady that she was diagnosed with cancer. She was ready to start radiation. I worked with her. I did energy on her. I got her to go back and do some soul work and forgiveness for people in her past because her cancer came through because of the anger she was holding within. And she went back to the doctor. And when she went to the doctor couldn't believe it. He could not find a trace of cancer.
No, but we talk about, which is amazing, we talk about emotions, but emotions are energy in motion.
Absolutely. And the thing with emotion is it goes way to your very depths. And when you have this emotion, even if you don't recognize it's there, and I've had individuals that didn't recognize the emotion until we got to talking about it. They'd suffered trauma when they were younger that they didn't remember, and when it was brought forth, then they started to feel it and bring it out and really understand that they needed to heal it, that it had something to do with their injury or their sickness.
That's right.
Headaches. I touched a young lady on the head, and she couldn't believe it, and I didn't even ask permission. I felt she had a headache, and I just went up and I said, I must do this. And so I touched her and I said, don't think I'm being strange, I need to help you. And she said, okay. I took my hands away, and she said that's the first time she did not have a headache in months.
Wow.
So it's such a good feeling, and I know it's all comes from God and Spirit, and it's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, we talk about disease. I always call it dis-ease because it's a dis-ease in the body somewhere.
That is absolutely correct. And
it's blocked. It's a blocked energy.
It is a blocked energy, and it's something that we agree to keep in our body.
Unless you choose to let it go.
That's correct.
Now, what motivates you to do what you do every single day?
What I have found to be the greatest motivation is it's really wonderful when somebody has come to you and you've given them a message from Spirit, and they can come back and say, well, I didn't like what you had to say. I saw you a year ago, and everything you had to say was accurate, and thank God you told me, because therefore I was able to get past what was happening, knowing the outcome was right around the corner, and it did, and so I got thanked. And well, that's the motivation, is to help people, because I understand suffering. I've been around that a lot in my life, and when you come out to the other side and somebody comes and just says thank you, or just wants to be in your energy, they don't even really have to say verbally thank you. You know, just because they're around you and they need to be in your energy, that they're thanking you.
Yeah. Now, what is actually your most memorable moment?
My most memorable moment, I must say, is when one girl came to me for a reading. I gave her a reading. She asked about her sister.
Right.
And when she asked about her sister, because she was concerned for her sister wasn't necessarily on the right path. I described to her what her sister was going to do, who she was going to, the type of man she was going to marry. And the sister chuckled and said, oh, that doesn't surprise me. The girl got to the point that was not the sister, but the girl herself, that she didn't want to hear what I had to say any longer, because it wasn't coming to fruition when she thought it would. But I had told her mother that it was going to be, she was going to meet this man, it was going to be really quick, and that they would move in together, they would get married. So the daughter had come to the point where she said, don't even tell her. Don't tell Cathy anything. I don't want her to know anything. So her mother just said, okay. So she called her mother about 3 weeks to a month later and said to her mother, I went out last night and I met somebody. And her mother says, oh, that's nice. She said, oh, we're going to start dating. She says, because he seems really nice and he's very intelligent. And her mother says, okay, good. Because her mother was already at the point where she'd had been around enough guys that she knew not to get too excited. 3 months later, she was living with this man. They got married. This man, I had described that he had a bit of facial hair. He rode a motorcycle. He was in the military. Yet he didn't wear a uniform. And that he spoke 2 different languages. And so when she started talking to her mother and telling her mother all these things, they started chuckling, because that's exactly what I had described. And then the girl said, well, Cathy got everything right, except the fact that you don't speak 2 different languages, meaning the boyfriend, fiance at that point. And he said, yes, I do. I spent the first 8 years of my life in Spain. I speak fluent Spanish. And she went, oh. Then in July, she came down and she gave me a hug after not seeing her. She went out And I said to her mother, are you sure she's not expecting a baby? And her mother said, well, I don't know, but she heard and called her on the phone. And the daughter says, well, she's been right about everything else. I said to her mother, I says, either she's expecting right now or soon to be. She went back to Virginia where she lives, went to her doctor, and she was so newly pregnant, she had to be confirmed through a blood test. I also said she would have a baby boy. He is now 4 weeks old.
That's a wonderful story.
It's so wonderful, and it's so great to be a part of that. I just love that, how she tried to say, I was right about everything except except the fact that he didn't speak 2 languages.
But he did.
But he did.
Now, you're a really busy individual, aren't you?
Very much so.
And are you going to be giving workshops anytime soon?
I intend to do some workshops. I'm hoping to get something scheduled soon at Unity, teaching people to connect with spirit and also do readings.
Yeah, that's Unity in St. Petersburg,
Florida. That's on 4th Street in St. Petersburg, Florida.
Now, this is a funny question.
I love funny questions.
Now, spirit can go anywhere they want. Do they ever bug you in the bathroom, in the shower?
Oh, absolutely. Spirit has a sense of humor, and when they really want my attention, they've been known to turn the water off and turn it cold, the hot water off and turn it cold, and it's like, yeah, I got your attention now, didn't I? And yes, they did, by the way.
You know, there's something, when a loved one passes into spirit, you know, they go back home, the living always say, well, I really miss him or her. And it's funny because I think, yes, we miss their physical presence, but spiritually they're always around you. So how can you miss someone?
Well, I don't. My father has been gone since 1997. And I don't miss him because he is around consistently. My father had a wicked sense of humor, and right after he went to spirit, he really wanted me to know he was around. And he reached right through and got a hold of my shoulder and squeezed it for all it was worth. And he used to think that that was just funny when we were even younger. So I knew immediately who it was. He had a message for everybody that he was okay.
Yeah.
So you can't miss someone. You can always talk to them. And I always encourage people, listen, you can communicate with your father, sister, best friend, spouse. They're not gone.
No.
Yes, you cannot see their face every day. I get it. You might need some closure if it's been a tragic accident.
And they should come and see you.
That's correct. And they will find out that the person is doing perfectly fine. I know a person that had been shot, and his parents came to me, and they wanted to know if it was a suicide. They sat down, and he popped right in, and that was the first thing he answered. He said, absolutely not. It was a mistake. He was just checking out this gun, and it misfired.
Oh.
Yeah, but it gave them closure, and it helped them because they understood that he wasn't trying to kill himself, that it was just what they had hoped it to be. Of course, if you have to lose somebody, you don't want to ever think that they would kill themselves. It helped with their healing process.
Yeah.
So that was a good thing to be part of. I've had people come to me and had tragedy of how their loved one has passed and talk to them. I had one young lady come through, and she had apologized because she was in the wrong place at the right time, was not supposed to be where she went, in agreements with her mother, and she was shot and killed. So they'll come through and they'll apologize, and they'll say, you know, but I helped the mother at the other side of that understand that that was her life path, and that was her agreement before she came to the earth plane. That's how she would leave.
You've also been to, and I totally forgot.
Lilydale, New York?
Yes.
Where I spoke from Inspiration
Yes.
Stomp. I gave several messages. The person that was coordinating the stump had said, if everybody gave messages like Cathy did, everybody in this audience would have got it.
Yeah.
And the whole audience was packed with like 100 people. So it was really great to get that recognition because Lilydale, New York is the oldest psychic community in the United States.
I know. I think there are over 30,000 people that go there every summer.
That's correct.
Are you planning to go back up there?
Oh yes. The energy there is phenomenal.
Well, I'm going to say thank you very much. If you have any last words?
I think that everybody can connect with spirit. I think that if you would really like to heal anything, please contact me. I'm more than happy to help work you through any situation that'll give you a light at the end of your tunnel.
And let me just make this clear. Cathy is the real deal. I mean, as we, she was born with this gift, and it's like, she's got a telephone line. It's just automatic.
I always tell everybody it's my hotline to heaven.
Yeah.
One day at church, this lady had never been in a spiritual church before, and I gave a message. And at the end of the service, she says to me, "Did you really? Did you really?" I says, "Yeah, I talk to dead people."
For more information, go to www.cathymiktuk.com. So thank you, Cathy.
Thank you, Brigitte.